In this video, I'll show you how you can go from being a skinny teenager who isn't satisfied with his body or life in general to being strong and muscular. From never wanting to take your t-shirt off in public, to being confident and satisfied with your body and life, to being disciplined and finding your true potential. Yes, I'll show you exactly how you can do that in this video. You've just got to stay around for point 5 on the checklist. Because I was once in your position where at 14 years old, I weighed 63 kilos and I wanted nothing more than to be jacked and look like the people that I looked up to. And I wish I could tell you that overnight I achieved my dream physique and became exactly who I wanted to be, but it just didn't work out like that. Instead, it took a lot of trial and error, a lot of time, and a lot of misinformation because I had no one to guide me and I had to figure it all out for myself. But eventually I reached 93 kilos at 17 years old and I was finally confident in who I was. And I wish that my results were normal and that everyone achieved their dream physique, but the reality is that most don't. Think of most adults you know today, they have never reached their true potential and dream physique, but not for a lack of trying. Because no matter how hard you try, if you're just doing the wrong things to build muscle as a teenager, you're going to be stuck at your body weight for the rest of your life. And that's not something that I want for you. You may feel that your metabolism is just abnormally fast and that it's impossible for you to gain weight. But I'm here to tell you that it is completely possible for you to get jacked and achieve your dream physique. You may feel like you're just not meant to be one of those super muscly guys, like you're just always going to be the skinny guy at school, but that is just not true. In fact, it couldn't be anything further from the truth. So in this video, I'm going to outline the 5-step checklist to creating the perfect program and gaining 10 kilos of lean muscle in the next 180 days and how you can guarantee yourself that transformation. To get to the first steps, we first need to understand the 3 key principles of hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is the scientific term for building muscle, and the 3 key principles are progressive overload, periodization, and frequency. Now, these steps are going to be a bit complicated because we're trying to create the perfect program, and that's not an easy thing to do. But stick around for step 5 because that's going to make sense of it all. So step 1 for the perfect program is progressive overload. Progressive overload is modifying variables in order to continually challenge the physiology of the body appropriately. What that means is that in your program, there must be an increase in difficulty of the exercises that you are performing in order to challenge the body and create muscle growth. How we do this at the SYC is by decreasing the reps in reserve each week. Reps in reserve is how many reps you have left at the end of a set before you would hit failure, theoretically. So each week we decrease the reps in reserve, which means that each set is becoming more difficult each week, so we are progressively overloading. Number 2 is periodization, which is alternating the intent of adjacent mesocycles to the gain of the macrocycle. So to break this down in simpler terms, periodization means we focus on one area of hypertrophy for one cycle or period of time, and then we focus on a different area of hypertrophy for the next cycle or period of time. And over time, that would give us increased gains compared to just focusing on one area of hypertrophy for the whole time. So how do we do this at the SYC? Well, in month 1 of our proven muscle building program for teenagers, SYC Build, we focus on using moderate weight for moderate reps. This builds muscle and it means we don't overload our members in the first month, and it sets us up perfectly for the next cycle where we focus on lower weights for higher reps, where we create a lot of muscle damage and build a lot of muscle. In this cycle, we use something called metabolite techniques, which I'll talk about later. Then in the third cycle, we go for heavier weights and lower reps. What this allows our members to do is 1, recover from the cycle before, which was very high volume and intensity, but also it creates more strength due to the weight and rep scheme. This increased strength allows us to go back to the first cycle with an increased weight and create even more muscle growth throughout that cycle. Now, why is this better than if we didn't periodize? If we didn't change the purpose of each cycle, then our bodies would get to the point where they just can't improve anymore at the weight and rep scheme that they are currently at, and your muscle growth would be stunted. The reason our members get such great results and can gain 10 kilos of muscle in 180 days is massively due to the principle of periodization. Step 3 is frequency. Frequency in this context is the number of times each week that you're training each muscle group. And this is the step that most teenagers don't know about or get wrong, causing them to never hit their full potential of muscle growth. It is now cemented in the sports science community that you need to train each muscle group twice a week if you want to maximize your muscle growth, which obviously we want to do. Now, the typical bro split where you're picking just 1 or 2 muscle groups to work on each session just does not cut it when you think about a frequency of twice a week. If you do chest and tries one day and back and bis another day and legs another, then you're only training each muscle group once a week, which is just not enough. Now, if you were to double that and train 6 times a week, then you could hit each muscle group twice a week. And then that would be enough stimulus to maximize your muscle growth. But for most teenagers, 6 days a week is not sustainable just due to life circumstances, and one day a week of rest does not give you a lot to recover and maximize that muscle growth. So what's the best way to do it? Our program, SYC Build, has a 3 or 5 day a week option depending on our members' schedules. Our 5 day a week option follows the split of push, pull, legs, upper, lower, which means that we hit each muscle group twice a week and means that we have 2 full days of rest each week, which is vital to muscle growth and preventing injuries. Our 3 day a week program consists of 3 full body sessions, and these sessions are created in a way that each muscle group is trained twice a week at a necessary volume and intensity to create up to 10 kilos of muscle in the next 180 days. Step 4 is using metabolite techniques in the correct cycle. Now, metabolite techniques can be used really well, or they can be used very incorrectly and not nearly as effective as they could be. Metabolite techniques are when we achieve metabolic stress in one of our cycles through high reps and movement combinations. Let's take a drop set as an example. A drop set is where you complete an exercise until failure, and then you take the weight down and complete it again until failure, often multiple times. This floods the muscles with products of metabolic reactions like lactic acid and creates a high amount of muscle growth. But metabolite techniques are very taxing and your muscles can take a long time to recover from them. Remember earlier when I said that we have certain cycles that go in sequence to each other called periodization? Well, metabolite techniques fit in the high reps and low weight cycle because in the next cycle we have high weight and low reps, which means that our muscles can recover from that high volume and metabolic stress. If you decide one day to add a drop set into a cycle where you're using high weight and low reps, then you drastically reduce the overall effectiveness of that cycle. And finally, step 5. Step 5 is where you realize that it's not just about creating the perfect program and then suddenly 6 months later you have 10 kilos of extra muscle on your body. A perfect program combines consistency, motivating factors, nutrition, guidance and support, mobility programs, peer support, technique reviews, and life support from a coach who has been in your shoes. You see, the perfect program is not just about what you do inside the gym, it's also about what you do outside of the gym. And for teenage boys, no one does it better than us at the Strong Youth Collective. Our method of adding 6 to 10 kilos of muscle onto a teenage boy is tried and tested. And we're so confident in it that if you follow our program to its weekly schedule and our nutrition guidance and our check-ins, and you don't gain at least 6 kilos of muscle in 6 months, then we will refund you your full 6 months of membership. So you are basically paying for muscle, and if you don't get the muscle, you don't pay. There really is nothing to lose. Instead of spending £20 a month on video games, clothes, food, or the cinema, spend £20 a month to get jacked and achieve your dream physique and change your life forever. There is no better way to spend your money. Join the Strong Youth Collective now and change your life in 180 days.